Ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth effortlessly while others stay trapped in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck? Here's a shocking truth. It's not about how much money you make, but how you think about money. Today, we're diving deep into the mindset shifts and creative strategies that can help anyone fund their business dreams, even without traditional backing. This is Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the Upflip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. And oh my gosh, am I excited for today's episode, because joining us is Jaspreet Singh, a former aspiring doctor turned successful entrepreneur who's revolutionizing financial education. From buying his first investment property at 19 to building multiple successful businesses, including Briefs Media, Jaspreet has mastered the art of building wealth through unconventional methods. His mission, making financial education accessible to everyone without the fluff or false promises. I am so excited to welcome you on the show. Thank you so much for being here, Jaspreet.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to this.
You have such a great and loyal following. We're talking 20,000 followers on Twitter, over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. So I'm excited to talk about everything financially, mindset for you. But I want to rewind to your early days. What sparked your entrepreneurial mindset? I know you want to be like a doctor. So talk to us about this.
Yeah, it just depends on what you mean by early days. I grew up in a very traditional Indian households. My parents are immigrants from a state in India called Punjab. And like a lot of traditional Indian immigrants, my parents told me that, Jaspreet, you have two options. You can either become a doctor or you can become a failure. You get to pick what you want to do. So I wanted to become successful since I was young because I saw how hard my parents were working and I wanted to give back to them. So to me, success meant becoming a doctor because if you just look at the traditional path, you get good grades, that way you can get into a good professional program so you can get a good job. That should equate to the most success. And that just was kind of what I thought and what I was taught. Well, along the way, I was always kind of interested in entrepreneurial stuff. When I was really young, I got into doing a paper route. I was mowing my neighbor's lawns for $10 or whatever. And then in middle school, I picked up a drum, a native Punjabi drum called a tol, and I started playing this at people's weddings. I actually paid it for my uncle's wedding just for fun. And the DJ there said, "Hey, Jaspreet, you're pretty good. Do you want to make money doing this?" And I said, "Sure."
What?
Yeah, my parents, I couldn't tell them because I knew they were not going to be happy. They kind of had some hint, and when they kind of heard that I was doing this, they were very unhappy. So I had to keep it all a secret. And again, anything that was not medicine related, to become a doctor, was a waste of time. But I started making a little bit of money working at weddings. And then I got to know a lot of the local DJs. And towards the middle to end of my high school career, one of the DJs said, "Jaspreet, a lot of kids in high school. How about we host a teen party together for the kids in your high school?" I said, "Okay." So I did that when I was 16 and 17 and made a little bit of money. By a little bit of money, I mean, the first party that we did, we made $2 each. I made $2 and he made $2. And then after that, maybe a few $100 while I was in high school throwing these parties at a time. So, it wasn't a ton of money. I think the most I made was probably close to $1,000.
Oh, that's so
in
cool.
one party when I was in high school. So it wasn't anything crazy, but it was decent money for a high school kid. But for me, it was all a hobby because I needed to become a doctor so I can become successful. So then I go to college now so I can become this, smart, successful person. But what I didn't realize, because I didn't know anybody that really went to university here in America, was that people go to college to party. I thought people go to college to study. And so now here I was, a freshman in college. I don't really party. Yeah, I was hosting parties, but I don't drink. I'm not into the party scene. And I need something to do on Friday nights. So now I have this experience working in the entertainment industry. And I was like, well, why don't I start hosting parties? And so that's what I did. I started hosting college parties as a freshman in college. I became a promoter. And then eventually that grew to my own event planning company where I was hosting parties and then concerts and shows in college. I started reading books about money management and investing, which told me all this stuff that I had never, I didn't know what a dividend was. I don't know what investing was. I don't know what a rental property was. I was never heard of these terms in my life. And I was like, holy moly, there's a whole world of financial education outside of school. And I was doing good in school. And I was like, I need to learn about this. And so that was when I started investing my money. And I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot.
I want to talk about mindset when it comes to business. I mean, how crucial is having that right mindset, that growth mindset? How important is that when starting a new business?
It's everything. I mean, if you look at this from just a financial perspective, if you watch Shark Tank, when The Shark Tank sharks invest in somebody. They're not investing in the business idea, really. They're investing in the entrepreneur because it's the entrepreneur that's going to make or break that business, especially when it's in its early stages, because you're going to face hurdles no matter what you do. Things are going to go wrong. I don't care what you're trying to do. I don't care who your parents are. I don't care what experience you have. Things are going to go wrong. And when things go wrong, how are you going to handle it? I'll give you a quick story because a lot of people know me as the face of Minority Mindset. That's my YouTube channel, like you were mentioning. The reason why I started Minority Mindset was not as a business idea. I started it because I got scammed in a previous business that I was running. I was running a sock company, an e-commerce sock company. I got scammed by a marketing company. And by this time, I was so fed up because I'd been scammed and screwed over by so many people because I know I was naive. I don't know what I was doing. I was just doing things. And so I started making videos on how to launch a business without getting screwed over. Well, that's starting to now pick up and grow. And I started actually on Instagram, and my Instagram had grown to, I don't know, it was maybe 50, 60, 70,000 followers. And I really didn't have a YouTube presence at this time. So it was really just Instagram. And my Instagram account got hacked
Oh
and
no.
was essentially deleted. And so now, what do you do in that situation where you put all this time and energy into this hobby, into this thing that you're trying to help people? Now you get your account hacked. And I remember I went to the gym with my brother and a buddy of mine, and we were hitting chest, and I was just like so angry. I was just pumping it out, and I was like, "Well, what do we do next?" And either I could just say screw it because it was just time. I had my sock business, which was making me money, but I said, no, this is the whole reason why I started this. I need to double down and just kind of come in and hit it even harder. And that's what I did. So then I started making YouTube videos more aggressive, like not aggressively, but making more YouTube videos, making more Instagram posts because I had this stubbornness, which is you're going to try to stop me. I'm going to do more of that thing. And so that's exactly what I did. I started making more content, and I'm thankful that I did because now, my YouTube channel has really grown. My Instagram has grown since then, but it's in those tough situations. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to get up and cry and then give up? Or are you going to actually keep fighting back? And the hurdles don't get easier. They actually get bigger and bigger because as you make more money, the mistakes get more expensive. Like when Minority Mindset started to grow, I then realized that, okay, I have a opportunity here to either spend my time building the sock business, which was profitable, or Minority Mindset, which is not profitable, but it's fun. And I decided, okay, I'm not going to do the sock business because I don't have a real passion for it. Even though that's making money, I rather do Minority Mindset. So I started putting more attention towards Minority Mindset, but I wanted to really build a business. And in my mind, a business is something that doesn't necessarily need my face in order to operate. So the YouTube channel was never my business. I knew that from the get go. And so my first idea was I'm going to turn Minority Mindset into this website, kind of like a nerd wallet, where you can go to learn financial stuff on the website. We're going to build a blog. We're going to have all these articles, and we're going to monetize through ads and whatever. But I just didn't have time or much interest. Like I'm just not really didn't know much about blogs, nor did I care. But I had money, so I had brought on one of the top blog consultants in the world. We brought on a number of freelance writers, brought a number of writers and just managers of the blog, and I dumped about $500,000
Wow.
into the blog, just building out the website and creating content and doing all this. And we were making no money. So 2 years of time and $500,000 of money later, I realized, yeah, this is not going to work. And so I had to turn it off. And, you got to imagine, that's not easy to always lose $500,000, no matter how much money you have. And so I then had to pivot again. And that was when, really started to focus more on what I do now, which is Briefs Media, which is my financial media company where we have a number of products from a free newsletter called Market Briefs to investor research products like Briefs Pro. But it's really ultimately, you're going to screw up, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to get screwed over. What do you do then? Are you going to give up, or are you going to keep fighting? And it's tough because sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's mental, but you just got to keep getting back up. And that's one of the most difficult parts. And I think one of the biggest benefits or things that I had was when I started, I was very stubborn. And in my mind, nothing was going to stop me because I didn't see any other possibility but to succeed. And I had a really dumb, like just dumb, like belief that I'm going to do this. I don't know how or what I was going to do, but I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to do whatever it takes. And I was fortunate that it worked. But, it's, you just kind of have to like believe even when nobody else does, even when things go wrong, and just keep fighting.
Yeah, I wanna ask you, you mentioned, like, you're passionate for this, the other thing's making money here. How do you balance as an entrepreneur doing something that you're passionate about, but also doing something that will generate money? Like, how do you balance that fine line, and how do you evaluate that?
Yeah, that passion is interesting because yes, I'm very passionate about helping people better with money, which is our mission, which helps a lot. But what ends up happening is as you grow, every business has the same stuff. Like you got to understand marketing, you got to understand sales, you got to understand operations, you got to understand hiring, you got to understand product management. Like all those things are going to happen whether you're selling socks or whether you're, publishing financial media. And so the passion is definitely like something, but it's not everything. I think what's more important for me is are you morally aligned with whatever it is that you're doing? And that was why it took me a long time to kind of figure out what is exactly something that I want to be proud of and want to do because, the entertainment company was just not something that I wanted to be associated with. But Briefs Media is. I'm proud of what we're doing. We want this to be a household name. That's what we're working towards. And I'm proud of, the products that we put out. We're proud of, what we have and we're not going to hide. That's exactly what we do. Like we want to be able to represent that. So I think you have to just be passionate about whatever it is that you're doing and be aligned morally. That way you can stand behind whatever you're doing.
And I wanna speak to, like, the financial aspect of it as well here. I mean, like, what's one mindset you think entrepreneurs have that, like, really holds them back to succeed when it comes to, like, financial wealth?
You know, it goes back to the same thing that I just said a minute ago. I think it's really just either why me or try me. Some people go through this whole like, oh, why did this happen to me? Why is it not working for me? Why is it? Or try me. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to spend money on ads and I'm going to lose and then I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to buy a course, get screwed over, but I'm still going to figure it out. I'm going to spend 20 hours watching YouTube videos, learning how to do something, but I'm going to figure it out. You got to figure it out. Every single thing that you're going to do in business is going to be a learning curve. Unless you have rich parents that have already done it that can guide you through it. If you don't have that, the first time you hire somebody, you're going to go through a whole learning curve. How do you hire somebody? What is the accounting process? How do you fire somebody? Because you realize you hired the wrong person. Then you're going to hire a few more crappy people, and then you're going to realize, okay, what type of people do you want to hire? What does it mean to hire a good person? When it goes to marketing, you're going to screw up. You're going to have horrible social media campaigns. You're going to have horrible advertising campaigns. You're going to spend and waste a lot of money. Then what? You're going to get screwed over by horrible marketers. And then you're going to say, well, now what? And you got to keep trying. You're going to try building products. And some of the products are going to suck. They're going to get bad reviews. And you're going to realize, wow, I should have never created this product. But that's how you learn. Then you work to create better products. You get better feedback. You learn what do customers want. You learn how to really build a product that has value. That's how you get better, right? So it's every part of the business is going to go through its own learning curve. As you grow, you're going to have more curves that you have to go over, which is like, okay, now your business is making cash. What do you do with that cash? What is cash flow management? Let's say now you really grow and now your business is making $1 million a year of profit. Now what? Did you take all that $1 million and go out and buy a nice Lamborghini and buy a big house? Or do you take the $1 million and reinvest it back into the company, take all $1 million and reinvest it? Like, what do you do? And these are the questions that you're going to have to go through. And there's no right answer, but you're going to make mistakes. Maybe you reinvested too much money. Maybe you took out too much money and the next year you have a bad year and now you don't have cash to pay your bills. Now what? And so, you're going to go through those mistakes. You got to be willing to learn.
You're like really hitting on. So I've been like a full-time entrepreneur now for like 15 months, and everything you like just said right there like resonates with me like so much because it's like figuring out cash flow management, figuring out how to hire people correctly. How do you have a good marketing campaign? How do you sell effectively? I mean, it all is like truly like learning as you go when it comes to entrepreneurship. Unless you, like you said, unless you have rich parents, but it really is learning as you go.
I've been there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, everybody who you see that is, successful as an entrepreneur, they've been there, they've made their fair share of mistakes. You just got to be willing to keep learning.
I'd be curious, is there any way though to speed up that learning process, or is it truly just trial and error? Like, do you like reflect on the day and be like, okay, I made this mistake. Here's what I would do next time. I'd love to hear like what your learning process is from learning from mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways to shorten the curve. I mean, you can learn from people that have done it, take people's advice who are actually doing what you want to do, but also be innovative. I mean, there's read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, which I think is very important for every entrepreneur. We could talk about this for hours, but like number one, having a to-do list. This is so important. When you screw up, reflect on it, right? What went wrong, what went right, A/B test things, try things, let data drive decisions, and then keep working towards wherever you want to go. I mean, and ultimately, you have to know what is your goal. And this can seem so simple, right? Well, what is the goal? I want to make money. Okay, well, let's get more defined. I want to make $1 million a year. Okay, you want to make $1 million a year. Well, how do you actually get to $1 million a year? Okay, I need to sell 10,000 of whatever product. Okay, you want to sell 10,000 products. How are you going to sell 10,000 products? Well, I need, let's call it 1 million people to go onto the sales page. Okay, how are you going to get 1 million people to go onto the sales page? Well, that means you're going to need 10 million people to see the sales page. Well, how are you going to get 10 million people to see the sales page? Right? You reverse engineer it, but you have to get focused then, and then improve every step of the way if that's what you're doing, or just knowing what are you working towards.
I think that is a really good advice, is have that end goal in mind. And once that end goal is in mind, reverse engineer it. That is some of my favorite advice I've actually received as an entrepreneur. And it helps so much because it's like, okay, if we need to book whatever, 10 meetings and we know our conversion rates, whatever, 30%, like, how many meetings you need to book to actually get there. So yeah, it's really good stuff. And I want to talk about funding as well. Not everyone that starts a business off time, but a lot of people that start a company don't come up from wealthy parents. So for someone starting a business with limited capital, like what are some creative funding methods would you recommend for them to get started?
Find some cash. I mean, and be creative. I mean, there's a endless amount of creativity in the world. So I'll give you an example. When I was building my sock company, it was a water resistant athletic sock. And in order to build this, I needed to work with a manufacturer. I didn't want to work with somebody in China. So I worked with somebody in North Carolina. And that meant we had to build a ton of prototypes through a textile that could repel water because I wanted it to be an athletic sock that could also repel water. Well, that cost money. And then I needed the textiles. I needed the yarn. Not just that, I needed a special yarn with a special coating on it that could also repel water, which meant I needed to make a deal with the textile people that provide the yarn and the people that can coat the yarn. And I have little to no money to make this happen. So how do you actually go about doing this? Well, I was essentially calling people again and again and again and again and again until eventually either people got fed up or somebody was dumb enough to say, all right, yeah, we can do this kind of test phase at virtually no cost because we know that you're going to provide orders in the future. I don't know if I can provide orders in the future, but yeah, okay, let's do that. Again, when you're young, you just kind of make calls,
Just go.
you just figure it out. And so I made a deal with the yarn people, the textile, like the coding people, and the manufacturer to essentially do a lot of legwork for me for less than $1,000 or $2,000, like to build prototypes to actually start doing this, maybe even less. And then you can use crowdfunding to go out and pre-sell your product. I pre-sold the product because manufacturing is expensive to run big manufacturing orders. And so I did my marketing off of Instagram. And by Instagram, I don't mean running ads on Instagram. I mean by creating content on Instagram and by just partnering with a bunch of small Instagram accounts and having us like share each other's stuff and kind of building this big launch and telling people, hey, you could pre-order these socks and get a discount. And then just making it clear, like, hey, you're not going to get the socks for a number of months. You're pre-ordering them. That way you can be the first person that gets them. You're getting them at a discount. Then I took that cash, bought the order from the manufacturer after going through all these trial and error to build the product. Now I got my first run, I got the first order, then you ship it all out, and now you kind of get started. Like it's just, you got to be creative. You got to find ways to hustle. When I was hosting parties, it was the same thing. How do you get people to come to a party when you don't have money to spend on advertising and marketing and have professional stuff, right? You're a young kid. Well, I made a deal with popular people on different campuses in the Southeast Michigan area and said, hey, you have a lot of friends on Facebook. You look popular. I'm going to give you free VIP access into my party. All you have to do is share it with your friends. How much does VIP access cost me? Nothing. You just get to come in for free. I'm not charging you cover. Plus, I'd buy a lanyard for each person. That way you look special. It costs me like maybe $3 a person. But if you get to look cool because you get to skip the line, you might invite 5 or 10 or 15 people. Each of those 5, 10, 15, 20 people are going to pay $10 each. You cost nothing to get in. And then what I would do is I would message people on Facebook, because Facebook used to tell you everyone's birthdays that were in December or March or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I'd say, hey, it's March. We're doing a special birthday celebration for all March people. We would love for you to come in and celebrate your birthday for free. We're going to give you a special shout out. Well, how much does it cost for me to shout you out for your birthday? Nothing. I just got to give a list to the DJ to say, happy birthday, Ryan. You come in for free. Doesn't cost me anything. Nobody's going to want to celebrate their birthday alone. You're going to bring 5 or 10 or 20 of your friends. Each one of your friends are going to pay money. So it's being creative. How do you think out of the box, be innovative to come up with ways to do things without spending a ton of money? A lot of people get caught up in this trap that I need all this money to get started. No, you don't. You need creativity. You got to be willing to think, and you got to be willing to work. If you don't have the money, you got to put in the additional effort. And even when you have the money, too much money becomes a disease, because that's what screwed me over when we were doing the blog. Is I had the money and I figured, all right, I'm just going to hire smart people who I thought were smart, and then it just burned all that money. So you got to be willing to put in that work.
Yeah, that's actually my next question I wanted to ask here is like, what are some of those common financial mistakes you see new entrepreneurs make? I would love to hear that from you. I feel like you could definitely talk about this for hours, so I'd love to hear this.
Everybody makes mistakes. I'm not saying I'm special. I made a ton of mistakes. I
Oh,
have
for sure. Yeah.
more mistakes than anybody. But I guess just getting complacent is the biggest thing. Is you got to stay hungry. You got to stay willing to work and do the things that people are not willing to do. That's, I think, one of the most difficult things is people, if you're an entrepreneur, it's not a popularity contest. You want to have something that actually is good, a good product that actually makes money. And that means you got to have a good team. So if somebody's not performing, you got to fire that person. You got to hire the people that are actually good at what they do and that are good at the company. Don't hire stupid people. You don't want to hire an average person. And then if somebody's not good, let them go. You got to make sure you have a good product. If it's not good, you got to fix it. It's up to you. Yeah, you can have somebody else hired to do that, but you got to go out and, take the charge. Take responsibility. There's the whole array of things. It just depends on kind of where the scale is. But, I have made every mistake. Everything that I'm saying, I'm telling you from experience, because I've hired dumb people.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is? I can't blame them, because it was me that made the hiring decision. So it was me that made the dumb decision. And then it was me that made the dumb decision to realize that this is not a good fit. And it's not bad for them. It's bad for everyone. Not only are they unhappy because they're working at a job that isn't aligned with their passions, it's also bad for us because then the company doesn't grow. And so you want people to work at a place where they can actually thrive, not where they just get comfortable. And so it's up to you to realize that and not just get caught up in a system. And so you got to be willing to learn and kind of get through those difficult times.
I'd love to hear your hiring advice now from all the mistakes that you made. You hired dumb people, but you obviously have hired phenomenal people. I'd love to hear, like, what's your playbook for hiring now? Like, how do you identify great talent?
Make it very hard to come work for you. You want to hire smart people. I'm not saying the people I hired were dumb. It was me that was dumb for hiring the wrong people. That was really the big thing. But you got to really just know what you're looking for and find people that are actually passionate. Don't make your application process easy. Make it difficult for somebody to come work for you. Because if somebody says, oh, I don't want to have to go through that, well, you're probably not a good fit for this company. Somebody's going to say, I love this mission. I love what you're doing, even if you're small. Like, you need somebody who is going to be passionate about what it is that they're doing, who is excited about it, who's happy about it, and who wants to do that, even if you're small. Because there's like almost 8 billion people in the world. You got to find one person who really loves what they do, who wants to be a part of whatever it is that you're doing, and you got to learn to sell that and find somebody who can align with that.
For me, that has been like my hardest thing is like hiring. Like I feel like I have so much room to improve. Do you guys hire based off of like culture values, your core values? Would love to hear that as well.
Yeah, so we have built our own values deck, culture deck. Every applicant goes through multiple interview rounds. One interview round is just a culture round to see how you would align with our company culture. If you are very smart, but you don't fit our company culture, you don't progress. You have to be in alignment with our culture. You also have to be very smart and very good at what you do. And you also have to be passionate and willing to work. It's a tough combination. You got to just find what is the right way for you to screen those people. And it's tough because some people are going to get upset. Why are you making the hiring process so difficult? Well, you want to make it difficult because you want to protect your brand and you want to protect your product and you want to protect your customers. We make our hiring process extremely difficult because we have built a good brand and we want to hire people that actually want to work. The team here, you have the ability to make a lot of money and you also have the ability to impact a lot of people. And we want to protect that. It's not just me, it's the entire team wants to protect that because we have worked so hard to build a culture where it's actually fun and it's creative and you want to work with people that actually want to do what they do. It's a very unique thing. And I can only tell you this because I've seen both ends of it, where it was people that just wanted to kind of have a job versus people that actually wanted to change the world. It's a very different person. It's a very different culture. And you got to figure out kind of where you want to be and then find the people that are in alignment with that.
So good. I want to jump back to the financial advice here as well, because you have a popular philosophy of cancel Netflix. That advice has gained some attention. Can you expand on that philosophy a little bit more? What does it mean to you? And talk to us about that.
What I say is if you're in what I call the financial danger zone, that is, you don't have $2,000 saved up for an emergency, or you have credit card debt, you are in the financial danger zone. In this time, you cannot afford a Netflix subscription. Now, a Netflix subscription, when I say that, I'm not talking about the $15 a month. I'm talking about the 2 to 3 hours a day that you're spending watching Netflix because the average American is watching around 3 hours of television a day, statistically. So if you're sitting there with no savings, or you're sitting there with credit card debt, which is keeping you from building any wealth, how in the world can you feel comfortable watching 2 to 3 hours of TV to relax? You should be relaxing after you've built some sort of wealth, at least after you pulled out of that financial hole. So what I say is take that Netflix time, the 2 to 3 hours a day, and transition that into learning time. Read books, watch podcasts, watch YouTube videos, something that's going to educate you, or actually go out and do something. Even if it's driving an Uber or delivering for Instacart, do something that's going to produce some sort of value that way you can get out of the financial danger zone. Because once you get out of the hole, now you can start building upwards. But if you're in a hole, you're stuck. And you got to get out of that hole as fast as possible. And you got to have a fire on your butt. And you can't be relaxing when you're in that hole.
Yeah, I think that is so good. And a lot of ways to do that is, like you said, like the Ubers, the Instacarts, and all that. What do you think for someone that's starting their first company? Like, what's a good opportunity for you to get cash flow quickly? There's low startup costs and like really get you out of that hole and spend, 2 to 3 hours a day working on it.
Depends on you. I mean, I got a friend who's really good with cars. He loves working on cars. And so people know that and say, hey, man, I need an oil change. Can I come over? Okay, yeah. He'll fix it. Hey, my car is giving me this weird noise. He can fix that. If you got a cool skill like that, cool. I got a friend who he has this weird passion for like moving. He likes it. So he joined TaskRabbit and he loves helping people move. That's weird to me, but he likes it. So that could be something that you're interested in. I have a friend who is really good at painting houses. I mean, just phenomenal at painting houses and has a lot of fun. Like he got that kind of artistic mind. He loves kind of putting up the tape and making sure it's a straight line. He makes decent money doing that. I mean, or actually pretty good money doing that. And it's just like, what can you do that you have some sort of skill at? And everybody's got some sort of skill. I mean, are you good at graphic design? Are you good at writing? Are you good at, technology? You can help somebody with something. If you're good at AI, teach a business how to use AI. Every business wants some sort of AI, but most people have no idea how even ChatGPT works. Teach them. Charge them $1,000 a month to implement ChatGPT in their business. If you want to go out and walk people's dogs, charge people money to do that. If you're good at digital marketing, charge businesses $1,000 a month to handle all of their digital marketing. I mean, But then the question is this your business or is that your business? I mean, you got to kind of figure out what you want to do because you got to be focused on the business if that's what the thing is, and just making sure you're not too distracted from that business.
Super, super good. Last question here before our fan blitz question. And that question would be, what final advice would you give to somebody who's afraid to start a business?
Start. Start. Look, you're going to die at some point.
Yeah.
Why wait? I mean, you don't need to make a drastic life change to start.
Yeah.
But you can start somewhere. Start watching YouTube videos or watching podcasts on how to do whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you start reading books and maybe you start something. Just maybe you start a little online site to help start generating some ideas. Maybe you just start taking little steps.
Art.
Just progress forward.
I like it. Well, we have progressed very nicely through this podcast. So I want to jump over to our fan blitz questions. And these are questions submitted from our community. Listeners, if you want to join world-class entrepreneurs, go to www.youtube.com/upflip and submit your questions there. We're ready for our last 5 questions here.
Let's do it.
Number 1, what's the most valuable piece of advice you've ever received?
I've received so much good advice. Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim. Love it. That's so good. Number 2, what do you wish you knew before starting your business?
Think bigger. Think bigger. When you think you're thinking big, cross it off, 10x it. Once you got that, cross it off again, 10x it again. If your goal is to make $1 million a year, add 2 zeros to the end of that. Just make it bigger and then make it bigger again. There's a lot of opportunity in the world.
Oh, that's really good advice. Number 3, what belief is keeping most people poor?
That you're meant to be poor. That you can't not be poor. If you live in a first world country, you have opportunities. It's harder for some people than others. Some people are in a more crappy situation. Some people are going to have to go through more crap. Some people are going to have to go through more stuff. Some people are going to have to go through way harder hurdles. But it is possible when you have the right mindset.
Really good.
Just stick with it.
And that leads us to our next fan blitz question, which was submitted that said, can anyone become wealthy?
Yes. Assuming that you live in a first world country and you have access to technology. You have access to a computer or a phone.
Last fan blitz question for you. If you could have a second chance starting your business, what would you do differently?
I would start with much bigger goals and just go for something a whole lot bigger instead of trying to just grow slowly.
I love that. That is really good advice. Throughout this episode, I feel like I have grown very, very fast. So if someone's like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more and connect with you, Jaspreet, where can they do so at?
Well, thank you for your time. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, Minority Mindset, where I publish a lot of financial education stuff, sometimes some business education there too. You can check out my company, Briefs Media. We have a free newsletter called Market Briefs, where we break down what's happening in the financial markets 6 times a week. So you can go to briefs.co and join Market Briefs over there, or briefs.co/market. And Briefs Media or Minority Mindset, really anywhere on social.
Everyone, that was an amazing episode with Jaspreet. Ton of great takeaways in here. Number 1, though, have stubbornness about you when you're starting a company. It's hard. You're going to have to get over huge obstacles, but you need to have a stubbornness to know that you can get through it. Number 2, have a goal in mind. Have a certain amount of money you want to make. Have a certain amount of free time you want to have. Have a goal in mind when you're starting a company and work backwards to achieve that goal. I really, really like that. Number 3, last one for you, start. At the end of the day, what makes a difference between an entrepreneur and a wannabe-preneur are the entrepreneur started. So my advice for you would be, if you are thinking about starting that business, jump today, take the leap, and get going on it. An amazing episode with Jaspreet. If you have been following this podcast, please don't forget to leave us a review. Your reviews and feedback allow us to bring more amazing podcast guests just like Jaspreet onto the show. You're the best. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity.